William Hurt passed away some time ago, and Marvel Studios decided this time to recast the role of Thaddeus Ross, and they took Harrison Ford. Yeah, that man turns 81 next week, so some eyebrows were frowned whether this was a good idea. Well, I saw Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny this afternoon, and I can honestly say it was one of the best ideas Marvel Studios has ever had. What a guy. Hello, this is the Review of Champions, and I am your host, Grandmaster. With me is a powerful panel made up of the finest champions Sakar has to offer. Let me introduce to you, first time appearing on this review series, Mr. Taylor First. How are you?
Hey, doing good.
Great. Still with his beautiful face on camera, Merv, how are you, man?
Fantastic.
A voice only, Mr. Lorddeathman.
Hey, hey.
And last but not least, Mrs. Lokismom.
Hey, everybody. I don't know if I'm Mrs. I'm not a Mrs. Loki's mom.
I assumed you were
I'm
married
Ms.
since you're a mom.
Mom.
Anyway, today we're going to talk about episode 2 called Promises of Secret Invasion, Marvel Studios' current running Disney Plus show. But before we do, I want you all to help us out. Like and share this video. Subscribe to our channel. And if you really can't get enough of us, you can join our sites. Sakar.freeforms.net. Set up an account there. Get to know us. And yes, we invite you to join us in our reviews or podcasts. We would love to have you on the show. Consider this your final warning. After this point, the spoilers are incoming. So if you haven't seen this week's episode yet, go do that first and then come back to our review. While Nick Fury leaves Russia, he finds out there are a million Skrulls on Earth. But that isn't his biggest problem at the moment. Meanwhile, Gravik is elected General of the Skrulls and continue to plan out his war. Well, of course, I'm going to start with Taylor, and I'm going to, Taylor, tell me something I don't know about Super Skrulls. What's your quick reactions to this week's episode and last week's, if you want?
Super Skrulls. That's obvious. That's Garrick's plan here. We saw some computer screens where we saw Groot and Extremists, I believe, was on the screen there. So he's trying to get DNA or whatever powers from other species to combine with Skrulls. And obviously that is his plan because he thought about what if the Avengers come back.
Mm-hmm.
So that has got to be his plan. In the comics, and Lorddeathman will know this better than me, but in the comics, I believe the originally Super Skrulls actually took the Fantastic Four's powers to create a Super Skrull.
There is a theory that is also happening in this show. Because one was Groot. Well, Groot can stretch like Reed Richards. One was Extremis, which get very hot. That's Mr. Johnny Storm. And then it was Co-Obsidian, who would represent the Thing. And the last one is a bit of a stretch, but that was the Frost Beast, and that's tied to Loki, who can make himself invisible at times. So there is a theory out there that they are doing this in Secret Invasion as well. But what did you think of the first 2 episodes of Secret Invasion?
I'm liking the show so far quite a bit. A lot of intrigue. Now this is taking place in the MCU. It's a superhero show, right? It's not a spy show. It's a superhero show that has some spy and espionage elements, which is fine.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, of all the spy shows that have ever happened, Man from U.N.C.L.E., I Spy, Girl from U.N.C.L.E., Wild Wild West, Mission Impossible, Spy Games, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, and so on. The one that this show reminds me the most of is actually from the early 2000s, the show Alias. And the reason it reminds me most of Alias is they did a storyline in Alias where the bad guys, through some weird technology, were able to completely change their appearance to look like someone else. And I can't remember the actress's name off the top of my head, but she was the actress from Firefly, was the bad woman, turned herself into Marin Dungy, killed Bradley Cooper, who then came back to life a couple seasons later for reasons unknown. But all of that makes it very reminiscent of this show here with the Skrull. And they, of course, probably copied the Skrull when they wrote that show in the 2000s. But overall, I'm really liking the show so far. It's not, it's not a knock you on your butt at this point, but again, we're only in the first act here, and then they're establishing the world and the situation and the players on the board. Just like, we've talked about this in other Marvel shows and other shows in general. That's where you have to start. And of course, this is a mini series. It's not like it's going to be an episode of the week thing that goes on for 10 years. So it's really like a long movie or a mini series. And I think they're doing a good job so far. I mean, I'm trying to avoid playing the guessing game of who's a Skrull and who's not a Skrull. I'm just going to wait and see. And I'm really trying to avoid that. I just think I'd waste a lot of time doing that. And I think they're going to fool us one way or another. But so far, I think it's good. The one big question I have, and that I hope they do answer, is why didn't Fury keep his promise? Because he had like 30 years. And of course, it wouldn't be Fury. He doesn't have a spaceship. Captain Marvel is the one who should have gone out there and found him a planet. We've seen from Thor and Guardians of the Galaxy, there's lots and lots of planets out there. Why couldn't they find one that the Skrull could settle on? I hope they answer that question for us. But overall, I'm really enjoying the show. And the death of Maria Hill was a shocker. I did not expect it to happen, at least not in the first episode like that. And I actually saw a lot of people online saying she's not really dead. Second episode, we'll find out she's still alive. No, she's dead. Or she was a Skrull. No, she wasn't a Skrull. That was Maria Hill, and she is dead. So you wanted stakes in the MCU? Well, now you got some. So I'm liking it.
Yeah, tell that to the Coney Smulders fan base. Okay, now we're going to talk exclusively about episode 2 of Secret Invasion Promises. Mr. Lorddeathman, tell me something I don't know about Rhodey in this episode. And can I have your quick thoughts?
Absolutely. I think what you don't know about Rhodey is that he's always wanted Nick's job. 2 colonels. Because he was quick to fire my man in that scene. I was like, well, this is kind of unceremonious. He's not gonna get like a watch, or he's just being kicked out. So that's what you don't know about the colonel, the second colonel.
He was quick to help a brother out, but help him to the kitchen or soup kitchen.
Help him out the front door.
Yeah, but anyway,
didn't realize those two were so competitive. Didn't realize it, but yes. In regards to my quick thoughts on the second episode, I really liked it. As you know, I was kind of lukewarm, maybe a little neutral on the first episode. I was kind of a wait and see to see what direction it went into, but I'm fully committed to the series now. I like the tone. I like the pacing. Sometimes it just takes an episode or two to kind of see what they're doing. Like, to kind of put aside your expectations of what you thought it would be to see what the show really is. And now I think with episode 2, you kind of got the mission statement. It's partially about some slow, deliberate conversations. There's a lot of action going on in between all of that. And there's great intrigue and espionage. And I'm entertained. And honestly, I'm more invested in this show than I ever was in the comic book.
Okay, that's good and positive, actually, because you have been ranting about this comic book series that you did not really enjoy. So
I know,
good.
and I feel proud to be the only one on the planet that did not enjoy or did not like truly love Secret Invasion. I'm not going to say that I didn't enjoy it. It was an okay comic book to read at the time. I worked in a comic book store at the time, and it was fine. Dark Reign, which immediately followed it, was a far better story to me, in my opinion.
Okay. Merv, tell me something about that I don't know about Queen Elizabeth chopping off fingers.
I I don't know anything about this actress or the character, but I will say that she kind of stole this episode too for me. I thought she was spectacular in this episode. I wish I knew more about Queen Elizabeth chopping off fingers, but unfortunately, my limited knowledge, somewhere behind Old Man Jackson's barn is the answer to that question.
Oh, I don't want to know. But no, I of course refer to Olivia Colman, who played Queen Elizabeth in season 3 and 4 of The Crown, which up until the moment she stepped into that meat cooling unit where they keep the meats, and she started chopping some meat. I still saw her like that, but yeah, they may have ruined the show for me now. But anyway, can I have your quick thoughts on episode 2 of Secret Invasion?
I guess she left a different impression after the meat locker, huh?
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it. I liked how much backstory we got with Gravik specifically. I really liked a lot of the Nick Fury's conversations. I thought the plot developed enough, a little less than first episode, I felt like, but we're getting a picture of like who these people are, more so on like Gravik's side of things. I think we're starting to figure it all out. And then of course there was a couple of cool action sequences thrown in. So yeah, I really enjoyed this episode.
That's good to hear. Loki's mom, last but not least, tell me something I don't know about Fury's wife.
Well, I did not even know that he had one. So that's my did you know? Yeah, that was a surprise.
Well, let me rephrase. Do you think Fury knows his wife is a Skrull?
Yeah, because she changed her look when he walks in the door. That's a good. Well, my particular theory is that we are dealing with two different Nick Furies here. My reason for that, for some reason, they keep switching his hat out. So when he's on the train with Talos, he has on this really just really nice looking, I think you call it Panama style hat. But then in other scenes, the next scene where he's at Maria's, not at the funeral, but they're bringing her body in. He's got on that knit cap again, and it goes back between that hat and that. Well, where's he getting that hat from? And changing it out. So I'm a little nervous about that. So that's like what maybe my little pet theory. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe. Yeah, I think he knows. I think this whoever that one if that's the real Nick or another Nick or whatever, he knows she's a Skrull. Yeah.
Okay. Well, can I have your quick thoughts on this week's episode?
Yeah, it was consistent with the first episode. I think it flowed right into it. Yeah, it was a lot more. Not as much action this time. I think it was, they settled down a little bit, and there was more backstory, of course, and that brought us up because I was a little bit clueless last week as far as I was thinking the Skrulls they'd found him a home, so apparently that fell through. Yeah, it was good. Yeah, enjoyed it so far, and looking forward to the next week's episode.
Yeah, me too. Actually, I really enjoy Secret Invasion so far. I have not been contaminated by reading the comic, so I don't know. I don't have any clue. I just enjoy the Cloak and Dagger stuff going on, and I also like that this week they did not reveal so much like this person is a Skrull or anything, but it's more like it is the way it is at the moment, and I really enjoy that. I don't need that every week. Merv, did you spot a Skrull, and can I have your deep dive, likes, dislikes on this week's episode?
I mean, I won't say I spotted a Skrull that stands out. However, I did hear a theory, and I don't necessarily agree that it's true, but I heard a theory that the Skrulls that we don't know are kind of dressed more in greens and purples, which would mean that Queen Elizabeth or Sonia is actually a Skrull because she wears like a purple overcoat with a green undershirt in this one. But I don't necessarily agree with that. I think that's a deliberate aesthetic choice because the Skrull's appearance in the comics is a lot of greens and purples, and so I'm fine with that. But I don't necessarily think that that's a breadcrumb trail leading to secret Skrulls later on. But overall, yeah, we opened with Gravik's backstory, which, a brief summarization of his backstory, kind of getting his initial picture into this thing, and kind of the I guess the reasoning behind some of the Skrulls' descent eventually, like their unhappiness being on Earth after 30 years of promises that have gone nowhere, so they feel kind of like abandoned and neglected, and that's understandable, honestly. Like it kind of really presented like at least Gravik's position of things, and you can kind of see how this group of people would be kind of militarized from where we saw them in like Captain Marvel, where they were mostly benevolent and agreeable and good people, or good things, I guess. I don't know if you can call them people, but so I really like that aspect of it, and I thought you saw that like throughout pretty much his whole storyline. You kind of saw where, I mean, he's pretty cutthroat now, like whenever you saw him as a kid, Gravik, I mean, he was, he can do a lot for us. He can, he's capable and blah, blah, blah. And then flash forward 30 years and he's like the leader of a resistance movement against humanity. And it's like, yeah, who didn't see that coming, but, I really enjoyed it. I loved the Sonya interrogation scene. I thought I forget her name, Olivia Colman, I think. I absolutely love the upbeat demeanor with the torture at the same time. It's just so like psychotic to me, and it had me smiling the whole time. Even whenever they start getting shot up and she's like, "Oh, your lift's here," and like kicks the guy out of the chair, and I'm just like, this is great. I really enjoyed Samuel L. Jackson's two big conversations in this too. With Talos on the train, I just loved the dialogue there, and two with Rhodey in the diner or whatever. And I still get the feeling that he's like feeling people out. I'm wondering if at some point he's like going to put it together, like who is and who isn't a secret Skrull in his world. You know what I mean? Like not the world, but like his circle of people that he knows. I still get the feeling that he's like prodding people and seeing how they react to certain things, because Nick Fury's like demeanor is a little bit all over the place, and I'm thinking it's deliberate, but I'm not sure that it's deliberate. I mean, I don't know what the reasoning is behind it, unless I just keep coming back to that, and that's my own. There's nothing really to justify that feeling in the show yet. It's just my own like thought, like maybe he's feeling these people out, and then he's putting two and two together, and eventually it'll be clear to me. But yeah, I just really like this episode. There was a lot of dialogue, a lot of cool scenes and interactions, and yeah, I look forward to the rest of the show.
Mm-hmm. Before I ask Taylor for his deeper dive, Lokismom, you had a follow-up?
Oh, yeah. I want to mention Olivia Colman, Queen Elizabeth, and I'm pretty sure she's actually channeling Queen Elizabeth I and not the second. I think Queen Elizabeth I would cut somebody's finger off in a heartbeat. She cut people's heads off, so she had no problem about cutting off fingers. Yeah, but she also, she's playing this MI6, I guess, chief or whatever. And she actually, I don't know if any of you guys saw it, but it's available on Amazon. It was made back a couple years ago, but it actually has my son, Loki. Tom Middleston is the star in it, but it's called The Night Manager, and it's really a good spy type that in that genre. I mean, the real thing, and it's I think a 6 weeks or 6 episode miniseries that's really good. And I just thought I'd put it out there. And she's in it also. She plays sort of the same character. She's the head of a British spy agency. Anyway, yeah, I just wanted to add that in there. Yeah, and I agree. She's just a terrific addition to this. And also, I want to say, I mentioned last week, I said I was trying to rattle off some 1960s spy TV shows, and I said if Taylor had been there, he could. And he absolutely did right off the bat. Just named 5. So thank you, Taylor, for doing that.
Well, yeah, you can always rely on Taylor to bring the knowledge. Well, speaking about the man, the myth, the legend, Taylor, can I have your deeper dive on this week's episode?
Yeah, well, here's a fun fact. Queen Elizabeth actually was known to feed fingers to her corgi dogs.
Fish fingers, maybe, but anyway.
No, deep dive. Well, I agree with Merv. I liked the conversations. I liked how we're following Nick Fury, and I'm not sure what he's doing, but I'm pretty sure he's got a plan in there somewhere. And I'm liking the intrigue so far. I maybe you guys understood it more than me, but I don't know where Gaia stands right now. I don't know if she's still working with Fury or if she was working with Garrick the whole. I don't know, and of course that'll be revealed later on. But that's part of the intrigue that I'm actually enjoying. In general, I don't like stories with shapeshifters. I know that sounds weird, but it's a trope that exists in sci-fi, and as a viewer, I find it frustrating sometimes because it feels like an unfair advantage to me. I like good guys and bad guys to be on equal footing, when they're fighting each other. But again, that's part of the story development. Like, for example, Deep Space Nine with the founders. Much as I love that show, absolutely love that show, but I still found it frustrating sometimes not knowing who was a founder and who wasn't. But that makes me pay attention more, and it doesn't stop it from being a great story. And so far, like I said, I'm enjoying this story. The part with Rhodey, I thought Rhodey was kind of interesting how he kind of told off the people in that meeting there, all the dignitaries from the other countries, and I'm not sure if there's a ulterior motive behind that, or if that was a clue to something else. Like I said, I'm trying to do a wait and see myself. But I thought that was a good scene, actually. One scene I thought was a little bit strange, or maybe just a little bit rushed. I thought the Skrull council rolled over awfully quickly, hit one guy in the face, and they all fold like cheap suits, and pledge their loyalty to Garrick.
Yeah, but wasn't it also that some people are already working with Gravik, and then they swayed the council like that? I mean,
it may be that they've already realized that the wind is blowing that way, and of course we don't know at this point how many Skrulls are working with Gravik. We do know that even some of the people at his own place, the nuclear plant there, are just there for refuge. That they're not there to fight for him. So we don't really know how many actual warriors he has at this point, but it's obviously growing. We do know that much. So yeah, overall, like I said, I'm really enjoying the show, and all those points are working for me. I just hope it all leads up to, and it's all paced properly for the 6 episodes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. When you were talking about Deep Space Nine, one particular episode came to mind when you were talking about the frustration about not knowing what a shapeshifter or who shapeshifter is. A Heart of Stone, the one where Keanu Reeves gets stuck in a crystal in a cave, talking to Odo the whole time. Turns out she's a shapeshifter in the end. But yeah, that one came immediately to mind when you were talking about that. Lorddeathman, did you spot a Skrull? And well, can I have your deep dive?
Indeed. I spotted a lot of Skrulls.
But one we don't know is a Skrull, huh?
Right, but someone we don't know is a Skrull. That's a good question. Honestly, I'm not watching this show in the in the hopes of finding the kind of Skrull of the week. So that being said, this show's approach to that is you had all of these people in powerful places on that council. There's that FSB commander. There's the guy who's the network news host. All of those guys were Skrulls, and then you get them into one room, and then that's it. They're Skrulls. So it's not like you have to Scooby-Doo this and grab somebody by the lapels and shake them and say, look, I know you're not who you say you are, right? So they're not playing that game, and I feel very grateful that the show isn't going down that road, because that's what the comic book felt like. It's like, I know you're not who you say you are. You shake the person by the lapels or whatever it is, and they change, and then dum dum dum, and et cetera, et cetera. Right. If it wasn't for those damn kids. But anyway, I'm not going to deep dive into my how mediocre I felt the comic was. But yeah, I there's no one here in the show this week that I thought was a Skrull or secretly might, change sides and turn out to be a Skrull. Although I have to say, while I'm not ready to say he's a Skrull, the way Rhodey was acting did, raise my antenna just a little bit. So what I will say is I don't think he's a Skrull now, but I wouldn't be surprised if he turned out to be one later.
Mhm. Okay.
Yeah. But quick
But
dislikes. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
yeah, that was actually my question. I mean, since you're critical of the storyline in the comics, are you critical of the storyline in the show?
No, not at all. I feel like the writing kind of took a step up here in the second episode for whatever reason. The conversations between Rhodey that people have highlighted many times in their commentary already, and the conversation that he has with Talos on the train. Those are both exquisitely written conversations. Now I can actually believe them when the writers say, I took my inspiration from things like Le Carre and post-war sort of spy novels. It sort of feels like it that is now true based on the types of conversations that are being had there. And people are moving forward as characters in the MCU. It's like Colonel Rhodes is in a different place. He's playing a political game, which is not something that we'd seen him do before, where he was much more of a soldier, kind of a line officer, working on the battlefield. We obviously see Fury being displaced. He's not the guy that he used to be, as we pointed out many times here. But I'm liking the development of the characters in the universe more so than I'm looking forward to like the next Crackerjack action sequence in this story. So I can point out those same two conversations with Nick Fury and those two characters, Rhodey and Talos, that are the standout pieces for me. It was nice to see sadistic Mary Poppins do her thing in terms of torturing a Skrull for information and then making a quick escape. That was really, really great to see Sonya there. And I think Olivia Colman is worth every dollar they're paying for her and maybe a little bit more. But again, I'm going into the drama. The conversations is what's really keeping me going and will probably keep me coming back. So that being said, I think that's kind of in stark contrast to, where the source material was. Uh, Other little nuggets and gems that I saw in the episode that really made me smile. Other that ending, and they put it there to kind of cliffhanger you, but it really was like, wow, does he know this woman is a Skrull or does he not know? Because either way is like seriously intriguing, especially when you think about how things go at night. Uh,
Well,
but
he did check in Captain Marvel what's down there, so he
well,
knows.
when it's Octurian, it don't
Yeah.
matter.
No, but
Uh,
yeah.
Um,
But could
no,
she
right.
be
I
the
just
reason
turned
that
to
he didn't
Jeff.
keep his promise?
Yes, in terms of keeping his promise, that I don't know that that's a promise that Nick should have made. Like Nick is the guy on Earth. He's the guy that kind of keeps secrets. Here he controls obviously the Avengers. The Avengers are probably the only thing keeping every galactic power in the Marvel universe from just deciding to move in and occupy Earth immediately. Because then you got to deal with like these five freaks that are from all over the galaxy that seem to be able to dispatch armies very quickly. So you wouldn't want to do that. But I wouldn't think of Nick Fury as the guy that I would say, oh, can you find me another habitable world somewhere out? I don't think Nick has studied star charts. I don't know that he knows how to fly a starship. That's more of a promise that like Carol should have made, or that Carol should have been more instrumental. And no one's mentioned her as the fall down in terms of where she is in all of this. I don't want to take Nick off the hook, uh, permanently, but I do think that his role in keeping that promise is a little overstated, and it probably doesn't even make sense that he would have been like, yeah, help me out. And sure, I'll find you another world. That doesn't sound like Nick. He might have said that he could help, but that being said, for me, that promise feels like they need to have it there for the motivation for the Skrulls I was about to call him Garrick. I'm dating myself badly. This guy is not Garrick from Star Trek or Deep Space Nine. But for Gravik they need that to kind of give him the dramatic backdrop that he needs in order to be all angry and sort of militant and terrorist like. So I like the hinting at the Super Skrulls. I like the shortcuts that they made to kind of get there. And the door is still open for them to have a proper Super Skrull when we get a Fantastic Four movie. Maybe the Skrulls will kind of evolve the science and say, look, cosmic air, earth, ether, those are the things we need to be trying to combine into our own physiology to make Super Skrulls. So this is largely good. I didn't have a problem at all with this episode, and I'm here for it, and I'm here for what comes next. I heard that this is like the second least watched series in the history of Disney Plus. It's like right above Miss Marvel, which is kind of scary considering the quality that you're getting here. But perhaps the MCU is revealing itself for the passing fad that it always was.
Yeah, well, to me, Miss Marvel's the best Disney Plus Marvel show so far. But who am I? Taylor, before I go to Lokismom for her deeper dive, you had a follow-up.
Yeah, first of all, I called him Garrick also, so we're both making that that mistake. It is Gravik. But I just wanted to mention
for Deep Space Nine tonight.
Yes, exactly. Another thing that always bugs me about shapeshifter stories is even once the good guys know that there are shapeshifters out there who can totally imitate everybody, they don't act like immediately suspicious of everyone they meet, and they like. And this show hasn't been too bad yet, and I hope it won't get too bad. But in a lot of other shows, it's like, oh, hey, Joe, I'm going to tell you all our top secrets here. By the way, we both know that there's, shapeshifters out there, but I'm not going to test you to find out if you're real or not before I start sharing all these secrets with you. And I see that happen over and over in these stories, and I hope that doesn't happen in this one. Right now, I'm chalking it up to Fury, like for instance, Fury and Rhodey's conversation. I'm chalking it up to, like Merv said, Fury was actually testing Rhodey during that conversation, and not necessarily trusting him.
Yeah. If Rhodey is a Skrull, by the way, he's married to a Skrull, and then he gets fired by a Skrull. Oh my God, it's a complicated show. Lokismom, did you spot a Skrull, and can I have a deep dive on this week's episode?
Well, I did not spot a Skrull. I mean, I'm not good at Skrull spotting, so I'm just going to take them each one as they come.
Okay.
Yeah, my deep dive onto it, I'll go a little more negative. I think everybody's being really positive, but going back to this whole the MacGuffin here, or whatever you want to call it, this Skrulls trying to start a nuclear war between Russia and the United States and blaming it on Nick Fury and yada yada. That to me is really contrived. I think at this point, after Battle of New York, Thanos, whatever that thing is out in the Indian Ocean that popped up in the Eternals, and all these other things have been happening with superheroes coming out, and now we have, I'm assuming at this point in time, when this story is being told, we have Asgardians living up in Norway. I don't think it would be that big a deal to say, hey, look, guys, we got another problem here. And no, Nick Fury is not starting. This is the bad guys from outer space again. I don't think that would be a hard sell to the people of Earth at this point. So that's, to me, is kind of laying a little flat right now. Maybe it'll explain itself a little bit later on. What I do like, though, I think it's once again, it's going back to the people on Earth and what they've had to experience with all this stuff that's gone down, and I think the whole point is that when the Skrulls came to Earth and started living among us, it was always kept secret from us. It was kept, and so maybe the fear is that if we let human race knows Skrulls are here, then they're going to say, "What? You've known that? You knew that back in the 1990s, and you didn't tell us until this people started dropping from outer space." And so I don't know why are they keeping the Skrulls a secret at this point? I mean, okay, we kept them a secret. We had to, and here again, it's sort of playing right into what's going on in our own lives with the whole. Couple weeks ago, the guy came out and said, "Well, we have alien. The government has had aliens stuff in there, whatever." And
but there's a difference.
Some of it's sort of credible, but anyway, I just find it interesting how real life is sort of intersecting here with this fiction. On the positive, yeah, I think the writing was really good. The train scene between Nick and Talos was just really well played. Sam Jackson's such a good actor, and so is Ben Mendelsohn. And then when he finds out there's a million, he goes, "A million! Oh my God, how we can't live together now!" And
yeah, but that was kind of my point, Lokismom.
Yeah.
You mentioned that it wouldn't be a hard sell, but there's a difference if you have like a couple of hundred, maybe 1,000, maybe 2,000 Asgardians living in one spot in Norway by the coast. That's fine, but if the word get out there, thousands, hundred of thousand, maybe even a million Skrulls, which you cannot spot living among humans, that's a different story, I think.
Yeah, maybe they don't want to start a panic or something like that. Make people on Earth just go totally start ripping each other apart. And you're a Skrull, that type of thing. Maybe they're trying to avoid that. But yeah. But anyway, I like the well, yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say. Just I like how they're blending in a lot of the cultural elements that were kind of tangentially. They're not actually pointing fingers. Oh, and one thing I really dislike. The terrorist guy, who was it that got his finger cut off by Queen Elizabeth? He was belonged to the terrorist group Americans Against Russia. Wow, that's just who come up with that terrorist group name? I don't know. But anyway,
I assume some people from Florida.
Yeah, whatever. I'm sure there's somebody named that out there somewhere.
Yeah. Okay.
Anyway, that's all I'd say.
Okay. Well, we have two follow-ups actually. Lorddeathman, you were first with your hand up, so you can go first.
Yeah, this is just dovetailing on something Loki's mom was saying with regards to the promise and so forth that Fury made these folks and the logistics behind the invasion, which their plan seems to be they're going to get all the nations of the world to kind of nuke each other. And then the Skrulls are going to live on our irradiated planet because the radiation doesn't bother them. And they said that there's like 1 million, Skrulls on the planet. But that being said, I do feel that there's some truthfulness in the idea that Fury didn't keep that promise because he's a busy guy. Like I'm sure he was making headway and inroads over that time, but then you get a Battle of New York. You're trying to assemble some Avengers. You're trying to move up in the hierarchy. I'm pretty sure that what happened is that sort of left the forefront of his mind too many times, and like that task that you didn't get to that you should have, now it's kind of come back to bite him. So I think the drama's just done well there, where everybody's motivation makes sense, even if the logistics of the planning doesn't make sense, as Loki's mom pointed out.
Yeah, or maybe just he hasn't heard back from Carol Danvers.
Yes.
Then we can all blame Brie Larson again. Yay. Merv, you had a follow-up as well.
I can't wait to blame Brie Larson for the Marvels. Yeah, just because nobody mentioned it, but Nick Fury's wife is also the Skrull that we saw in the beginning who introduced Nick Fury to Gravik. So he definitely knows she's a Skrull. And that also comes back to something he said in the last episode where he's like, I know some beautiful Skrulls and you're not one of them. And now it makes a lot more sense because he married one. So that, and I haven't read the comics for Secret Invasion or a whole lot of Skrull included comics, but they name dropped Emperor Groj, I think, something like that. I don't know if that makes sense to people who have read the comics, but then my ear perked up whenever I heard a new name, and I'm like, oh, is this guy going to be something later? Or maybe he factors into the plot here somehow. And we're getting a little hint of that right now as there's a colony of Skrulls somewhere under the leadership of an Emperor Groj somewhere. And is he actually behind something or whatever, you know? But I just wanted to throw that out there as information.
Yeah, okay. By the way, if there's a colony, why do they need Earth? But anyway. Lokismom, you had a follow-up on yourself?
Yeah, I was just going to say, talking about Nick's failure to find them a planet, aside from the fact that he's just a human being, you know, on Earth that
Right.
not doesn't have superpowers and you know anything like that. Yeah, he knows a couple of Avengers, so what? You know, Iron Man's dead, so he can't help. Yeah, I think here again, part of the contrivance is that I think. Why wouldn't the Skrulls understand that Nick hadn't found him a home yet? I mean, you know, with everything that's gone on, good Lord, they saved the whole. Nick wasn't there, but you know, the Avengers, his team saved the whole freaking damn universe. Hello, can you not give us a little bit of gratitude for that, Skrulls?
Yeah.
Just my little rant.
No, you can rant all you want. I mean, we're not trying to be a love fest for Marvel. We often are, but sure. Okay, people, I think we unpacked enough about this week's episode. It's time to do a rating. Let's just start with, you, Lokismom, give me your number for this week's episode, please.
Oh, yes, sir. I will give it a 7, just like last week. So far, so good.
Okay, at least you are consistent. Merv?
I'll also give it a 9, same as last week. The various conversations and the action scene with Sonya, I guess it was an action scene, really just made this episode great.
Okay. Taylor, can I get a little love for the conversation Nick Fury had with Maria's mom?
Yeah, that was actually a good conversation. That was a good scene. I'm surprised I forgot to mention that earlier. Yeah, that was a good scene. And, you know, she's obviously very grieving and frustrated, and Nick obviously feels terrible about what happened. So, yeah, that was a good scene.
Yeah. Can I have your number for this week's episode? And if you want, you can also rate last week's episode, but no need if you don't need.
Yeah, I'm giving both episodes 8 out of 10 at this point.
Okay, fair enough. Lorddeathman.
Unlike last week, I'm going to give this episode an 8.5. So I thought it was really impressive, and again, I like the drama. I like where the story's going. It's engaging, and looking forward to seeing more.
Yeah. I'm sticking to my 7 out of 10. Did I give it last week? No, 8, I think. But 8 out of 10. Same as last week as well. I think it's fairly consistent. I agree with Lorddeathman. The writing is a little bit better, and the conversations were great. Maybe it lacked a little bit of action. And I deduct a point extra because of they ruined the ground for me. Anyway, that's my thoughts. That will conclude this week's review of Champions for Promises, episode 2 of Secret Invasion. We hope you have enjoyed our discussion today. If you did, you can help us out. Like and share this review, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you really want more of us, you can join our forum at scarletfreeforums.net. We would love it if you join us. For now, I thank you all also on behalf of our champions, and I wish you to be safe and be well. Bye.